Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Tomcat Stitchery. I'm Whitney and welcome back to another Sew Along Sunday. So we have a new sew along that we're starting today. Excuse my hair. We're all in this together, right? A new sew along that we're starting today, and I am using the Kimberly dress by AK Patterns, which is right here. And I'm actually making two versions as we go through this. The dress comes as a V-neck bodice, but I'm actually going to be making also a scoop neck, and I'm showing you today how to draft a scoop neck on any V-neck bodice. This is a very basic dress. It is just your standard 4 dart bodice. So there's side darts and there's also waist darts. And then it is, I don't think it's a full circle skirt, maybe a 3/4 circle skirt. I say that. Yeah, I don't think it's a full circle skirt. I think maybe a 3/4 circle skirt dress, and then it has sleeve options. So I'll be making one with sleeves and one without sleeves. Now this dress does call for facings, but instead of facings, I'm going to omit those on both versions and actually fully line the bodice. So I'll be showing you how to fully line the bodice both with sleeves and without sleeves. I'm not lining the sleeves, but I will be lining the bodice, and it's a pretty easy deviation, both sleeveless and then also with the sleeves. They're a little different, obviously, around the arm side. But anyway, I'll be doing that. So today we are going to be doing all of the pattern work. I had a lot of questions about how to do a full bust adjustment when you had both a waist dart and a side dart. So that's what we'll be doing today. And I'm also talking about small bust adjustments as well. I had a lot of questions last time about that, and I feel like I've neglected those. It really is just the opposite of what a full bust adjustment is, but I'm actually showing that if you are a visual person and need that, that little bit of actually seeing it be done for it to click, then I am actually swinging it that way and showing you how you would do it for a small bust, and then swinging it to, obviously I needed the full bust adjustment. So at the end of this, that's really the only alteration I'm making. I did a full bust adjustment. I want the waist to stay at the full bust adjustment. So I added 2.5 inches across the bust, which obviously adds 2.5 inches at the waist as well. Now, because there's a waist dart, you can leave the waist as is by just taking out a bigger dart that is now formed, or you can leave the dart size as is and leave that extra 2.5 inches in, which is what I need actually. A little bit of extra room in my waist, which is where I carry a little bit more of my weight. So I'm kind of talking about that as well. And then I'm adding the, because I have widened now the waist, I am adding the width to the skirt bottom as well and the front only. So I am going through all of those adjustments today. And after today, you will need to cut out your pattern. And then for the fully lining the bodice, you will just need to cut out the front and the back bodice pieces out of your lining fabric as well. No adjustments, just same as, and then just omit those facing pieces. You don't even need those. But everything else in the pattern is same as. So yeah, you'll cut out a front on the fold in your fashion fabric, and then 2 backs, and then you'll do the same out of your lining, a front on the fold and 2 backs. And we'll be inserting an invisible zipper in this dress. What else? I think that's about all the techniques. But yeah, it's your basic dress, so you can definitely use the pattern if you would like, or maybe it will help you with any other pattern that you're trying to adjust or sew through, or really any bodice that you want to add a full lining or fully line the bodice as opposed to doing facings. It works the same through all of them. Okay, so I hope that this is helpful. As always, leave questions down below if you've got them. Again, we're just doing adjustments today, and next week we'll start sewing our bodices, and then the following week we will, I'm not sure how many, I haven't actually sewn the dresses up yet. So this will either be 3 or 4 weeks worth of a sew along. Okay, don't forget to leave those questions if you got them. I will see you in the daily vlogs if you're watching those, and if not, I will see you again on Tuesday. Bye! Okay, so since this is the first time we've done a PDF pattern, I thought I would show you really quickly how to put these together. So this is actually not the Kimberly dress. This is the Lisa dress by AK Patterns, or Athena's pattern line, and I'm going to be doing a mashup because these bodices and skirts between these two dresses can mix and match, which is a very exciting and cool thing. Also, the Lisa dress also has a dart, a waist and side dart, so the adjustments would be very similar, just so you know. Okay, so first things first, you print off the pattern, and print it off actual size. Don't make sure it's not printing to fit or whatever. You will need Adobe Acrobat in order to do that. This is a PDF pattern, which means the file is in PDF form. You know, this is however many pages, I don't know, 40 pages or something. But what you want to do is usually, you know, she's got a schematic here that shows you, and very faintly, you may not be able to see it. It has the page numbers very faintly. So you can see, you know, there's one, here's one, and it shows how this kind of goes together if you get a little lost. So that's good to set aside and keep as a reference. It's kind of like a map. And then for this first piece here, of course, we've got, this is the Lisa dress. Again, my Kimberly dress was already assembled. So, I'm just showing you, it works the same way. So here are the different versions of the Lisa dress, all three right here. Okay, now here we have our first page of the actual pattern. So you want to measure this square, either 4 by 4 centimeters square or 2 by 2 centimeters square. That's going to make sure that your pattern is printing off the correct size. So if I put a 2 by 2, yep, that is 2 inches by 2 inches. So we should be good to go. Now, I also want to point out, hopefully you can see, let me get my pencil or pen just in case, but there are these faint triangles right here, and they're on the bottom. So maybe that can help you kind of see those. That's what we're matching up. Now, the proper way to do a PDF pattern is to technically cut. So let me set this stack of paper over here so we don't get confused. So this is page 4 and page 5. So technically you should be cutting off, let me get this right, the top along the black lines and the left side. You don't have to cut all the perimeter off, but the top and the side. And then you match up your triangles. So here's the other triangle on this piece. So they should form a diamond. So sometimes the edges of your paper don't match up, and that's okay because sometimes printers will feed the paper through a little crookedly. So you don't want to be matching up necessarily the edge of the paper. You're matching up these diamonds. So that is one way. And then for pieces that don't have any important pattern work on it, like these two, I'll just place a small piece of tape at the top and a small piece of tape at the bottom. Now, obviously this takes some time because you're doing a lot of trimming. However, so you just keep going this way until you finish row 1, and then you move down to row 2. And again, if you're looking at your map here, you can see that row 1 goes all the way through page 9, and then you drop down, and row 10 through 18 is the next row. I like to put a row together and then attach, kind of like quilting. I put all the pieces together to make a row, and then I will attach all the rows together. So that's one way. Although I am much too impatient to cut all of these. And each pattern company is different in the markings that they'll have to match them up. For instance, It's to Stitch has like circles in the corners. So I actually just do, and I cut the corners off on those 3 corners, on the top right, top left, bottom left on the pages. And so that I'm just matching up that way. Or I can actually see through my paper. You probably can't see through it just because you're far enough away. But I can line them up that way, and then you don't have to cut anything off. It goes just a wee bit faster, but you do have to make sure everything's lined up properly. So this is lined up. I can see that the other piece of the diamond is there. And so now I will just tape, and I will have to tape through this entire piece because it's, you want this secured through this entire pattern piece. So I don't bother trimming because I can see through it. Now I know a lot of people that will put either a light box on underneath it to help you see even better to line things up, or I know people that will put it up against a window, which is another way that you can do that. Just tape it to the window. That may also help if you don't like cutting your PDF patterns, that you could just trace out from there also on a window. So that is how you assemble a PDF pattern. And then when it's all assembled, it will look like this, but much bigger. Okay, So let me know if you have any questions about that. I just thought I would go over that real quick since this is the first PDF pattern that we've made for a sew along. Okay, so let's put this aside and we're going to talk about the Kimberly. And I do need to assemble that later. Okay, so I have my Kimberly all put together except for, well, it's all put together, but I just haven't cut out my front bodice or my back bodice yet because, well, I could have with my back bodice. All right, so here is my front bodice. I want to make sure, okay, I'm going to put this part out of frame. I've marked my frame here on my cutting mat with tape so that we can see everything. All right, so as you can see, we have a side dart and a bust dart. Unfortunately, this pattern does not have layers, so you can't just print off one size. I am making the size 12, so it may be helpful to go in, and in fact, I'm going to do that. I'm going to just go in so you guys can easily see the size 12 darts that are there. The current ones. We'll be making new ones, of course. And unfortunately, my size 12 is right underneath that area. I'll go ahead and mark that. All right. Okay, so there's my current darts. So I looked at the pattern and it gives me the finished measurement. Now I picked a 12 because the 12 is for a size 37 bust. My upper bust, so my measurement above, you know, right underneath my armpits is 36 inches. So I'm giving myself a little bit more room because I think the size 10 was 35 and I didn't want to go down too small so that I have to do really big full bust adjustments. So I sized up, and I also know that a size 12 in her patterns fits me pretty well. So I have chosen the size 12 because the upper bust measurement is pretty close to my, or the full bust measurement on the pattern is pretty close to my upper bust measurement. Now the finish bust on the size 12 is 39 3/8. And I got that off the pattern. She had that written out. My bust is actually, full bust is 40 inches, and the pattern has it drafted in about 2 inches of ease, and that's usually what I'm very comfortable with a fitted dress like this. So I want 42 inches, my total bust measurement to be 42 inches. Now I hate messing around when you get to 1/8 of an inch, so I'm just rounding this up to 39.5. If it's 1/8 of an inch or half, well, 1/8 of an inch all over too small, I'm absolutely fine with that. So I'm going to add 2.5 inches to the front in order to get to 42. And it would actually be 42 and, right? No, it would actually be 41 5/8. Is that right? Oh, I don't know. I'm rounding this up to 1/2 of an inch. Let's pretend that this is 39.5. So then 2.5 inches will get us to 42. So I'm adding 2.5 inches, which means on each of my fronts, I need to add 1 1/4 to get to my 2.5 total. Also, the finished waist measurement on a size 12 is 31 inches, and my waist is 32 inches. So if I add 2.5 inches to 31, I'm at 33.5, which is a little bit. I like to have at least an inch of ease at my waist. So that's going to be just 1/2 of an inch more than I would normally want. So normally I want my waist to be about 33 inches, but this will be putting it at 33.5, but I'm fine with that extra 1/2 inch ease. That's absolutely fine. So this will also help too, and we will adjust the front skirt pattern for this as well. Okay, let's do a full bust adjustment with 2 darts. It's really quite simple. So first things first, we need to extend from the center of our dart, and you want it to be parallel. This lengthen and shorten line is a good reference point because it'll be, it's parallel to the grain line or the center fold. So I'm just marking right up through the top of this dart. I'm going to mark a line And you can go up far because we want it, oops, scoot over. Okay, there we go. There we go, right through the center of the dart. Okay, let me switch pen colors, make it a little easier. Okay, and then we're going to do the same here. So I'm going to make this line perpendicular to the grain line. Okay, so this right here is the apex. That is where, so you back off your darts from the apex. So that is technically the apex right there. So that's where we're going to be doing our cutting. Now, for full bust adjustments, also this pattern for some reason printed off this extra armhole, which is kind of confusing. This is the armhole I want right here. This is a size 12, 16, 14, size 12. This pattern comes much larger than a size 16. It just breaks it up into 2 separate files, in case you're wondering. So I think that the other file is like 14 up to 28, I think her sizes go. So just for reference. So I am going to now draw a line from the apex up to the notch in the arm. And this is my size right here. This is the 12. Okay, so now, here, I'm going to mark this in purple too, just so we don't get confused. Okay, so now we're going to cut through our purple lines. And I had a blue pen. Ah, found it. Okay, we'll mark our new one in blue when we get there. Okay, so what we want to do is we can just cut right up through the center of this dart to the apex. So we're going past that dart point, and then we're going to turn. Oh, hold on. Got to mark in our seam allowance up here at the arm, which is 5/8 of an inch. So we're going to mark or cut all the way up to that point and then stop. And then we're going to cut from this line that we drew don't want to go all the way through there. So we're leaving a hinge point there. And then I'm going to cut down through this seam allowance so that there's a hinge point there. Now, I love doing dart manipulation and dart, like FBAs. I'm also going to show you how to do an FBA, which is a small bust adjustment. Because it dawned on me that not everyone needs full bust adjustments. A lot of people need small bust adjustments, and it's actually the opposite, and you'll see that in just a second. Okay, so first things, I am going to cut some extra paper. So place it behind here. All right. Okay, so I, again, want to add an inch and 1.25 inches. So what I normally do, I'm not going to do it yet because I want to show you how to do an a small bust adjustment as well. I should have cut more paper. Okay. I wonder if I should do this. That's okay. Okay. So what I would do is place tape right here and maybe just a little bit right here at the apex just to keep that from moving. And then you can draw in your 1.25 inch line so that then you're bringing that parallel. So then this all gets taped down. And we will do this in a second, but then we cut here at the lengthen and shorten line and drop it so that it matches back up to the lengthen and shorten line here. If, for instance, let's say that you pick a size for your upper bust, which if you have a bust smaller, so if you make a size for your full bust adjustment or one that it feels like it's too tight in the chest, make it for your upper bust. So if you also have an upper bust of, let's say, 37, but then your full bust is also 37 maybe, and you've got just a lot of excess fabric, you know, around the arm and in through the bust area, you may need a small bust adjustment. So let's say you just need to do like a 1/2 inch small bust adjustment. You will do just the same thing. You're going to cut in the same places, do the same lines, but you would make a line, I'm just arbitrarily saying a 1/2 inch. Let's say you want to shrink the total circumference by 1 inch. You would mark a line. I'm just going to use a pencil so I don't get too confused. Mark a line 1/2 inch over, if you can kind of see that. And then instead of spreading it, you're actually going to go in. So as you can see, and then tape all that down. So now your dart has gotten much smaller. Quite a bit smaller. So now your dart leg would be, I can see it through here. It's kind of hard to see. There's the dart leg because we're doing a size 12. So your dart leg would be here and here to your center point. Is that right? Or would it be the cut line? No, I think it's your original leg. So yeah, it's here to here. And you would draw those to your new apex, and then we'll back the dart off. But see, so it makes it a little shorter here at the bottom. So you do the same thing. You would cut here, but you'd move it up instead of spreading it out. And that will also eliminate any arm gaping if you might be having a little bit of arm gaping. But that is how you do a small bust adjustment. It's just the opposite. So you're just moving it in instead of moving it out. Okay, so let's get back to my full bust adjustment. So that may be again, it's the opposite of what you would do for a full bust. But I think some people maybe needed it because I had some questions. And I just wanted to explain what that looked like. Okay, so now I'm going to add my 1.25 inches here. So I measured 1.25 inches from this line here. So now I can line that up. And I'm just taping down. This is still free on this side. I'm just taping down this right side, but I'm taping down the darts. And up here into the armpit. And again, I still have size, a lot of lines here for the couple bigger sizes that I don't need, but we'll cut those away in a second. Okay, so now we are going to cut at our lengthen and shorten line. And I'm going to extend this. I'm also going to extend this line. So now we will line that up there. Tape it all down really well. Okay, so we have added the room that we need. So now we need to determine our new darts. So clearly we have cut this dart in half now. I'm actually going to keep the dart points pretty similar to where they were, and I can see where I've cut them. So I'm going to, 1/2 of 1 1/4 is 5/8. So I'm going to put this right about here, which now that everything is spread, it should be fine. Because our apex, again, is way up here. And now I have my original dart legs. Hopefully you can see this. I've got my original dart legs that are down here in pink. We're going to keep those, but they're going to go to this new point here. So we've just made that dart bigger. Oh, wait, you know what? Okay, hold on. Hold on the waist dart. I'm actually not going to keep those, so hold on. I am going to go from the original dart lines. We need to go to this side dart because that does need to stay the same length because it's got to match the back. And that's size 12, okay. These are the juiciest pins and they make such a big mess, but oh well. Okay, so there we go. So here's my dart leg here and my dart leg here, and there's my point. All right, with my waist dart, if I wanted to keep my waist at 31 inches, I would draw it in at the original lines here. But because I actually want this excess space, I want to keep the dart the same size that it was originally because I do want this excess space. So that means I need to take my dart legs in a total of 1 1/4 inches, which is 5/8 of an inch in from each side. I hope this makes sense. Actually, hold on, and I need a little bit of paper. Fill in this bottom. All right. Ooh. Okay, so I'm going in 5/8 of an inch. So I have made this dart 1 1/4 inches bigger, but I want it to be the same size that it was before I spread it because I do want that extra room in the waist, just because I need it. If you don't need the extra room in the waist, you can just do like we did on the side dart, and you can just redraw to the new point. So I'm going in 5/8 of an inch. Okay, disregard this blue line here. So there are my dart legs. Now, in order to true the pattern so that we have, you know, it a lot of times will dip on the side and you get that line, we want to score our dart legs. And now I will sew these darts and I want to press them to the side. So that's how I'm going to fold them. So I'm going to fold them together, the dart legs together without making a mess with the ink, which will inevitably happen. And then my size be like that. So then when it comes apart, you can see the little jog that's in there. So now I can go through and cut it there at the bottom. That is on tape too, so that line is not wanting to stay, but I can see what I can see what I need to see. And then up here on this side dart, we want to draw in our lines. And we're going to fold this, and we want the dart bulk will get pressed down. So that is the bottom coming up to the top. And then I can clearly see it might be kind of hard for you. I can see the perforated line there of where I need to cut. And I'm just going to kind of smooth that armhole out a little bit. And then I will need to go back in, throw this extra paper on the ground. I will recycle that. And don't forget you do need your armhole notch, which should be right there where that kind of overlaps. Okay, and there you have it. If you've got any extra paper back here that you want to get rid of, ouch. You'll also want to true up this line, but this is on the fold, so it should be a straight line. And then let's see, I need just like that. So there we have it. There is a full bust adjustment with a waist dart and a bust dart. So let me know if you have any questions on that. So there is that piece. That is all nice and done. Also, I've already measured the shoulder here, and I think the shoulder is going to be fine on me. I'm making 2 bodices for you guys. This is obviously the V-neck, which is the original bodice of the dress. I'll be making that one, but then I'm also going to show you here in a minute. Now that we've done all this work, I'm going to trace this bodice off again and show you how to do a scoop neck on this as well. So I'm going to be doing 2 different bodices. Both of them I'll be lining. I won't be using a facing on either. But I'm going to show you how to draft a scoop neck on this if you don't want the V-neck, just for something different. And I can show you how to redraft the facing. It's just I'm going to be using linings on both of my, bodice linings at least, on both of my dresses that I'll be making. And really just the bodices will be made a little differently and not much differently, but I will be doing both of those. Okay, so we're going to set this aside for now. Our back doesn't get any changes to it because I didn't need to make any changes to it. I just need to cut that out still. And then we've got our front skirt. So we had added 1.25 inches to the front, well, to each half of the dress. This front piece is cut on the fold, so it is half of the front. And again, we added 1.25 inches to each half of the front for a total of 2.5 inches. Now, one thing you can do, and I've already shortened I know that with Athena's patterns, I have to shorten them 2 inches and then they hit me where they're supposed to. So I've already shortened this 2 inches, and you'll see that my side seam here, it looks kind of wonky. When you shorten like a 3/4 circle skirt or a full circle skirt, a lot of times you have to make a very wonky side seam because the jog is so bad when you shorten at the lengthen and shorten line. The only thing you want to take into consideration is you want this point up here at the waist to stay the same and the point at the hem to stay the same. And then you just put a really long yardstick or meter stick down and connect the dots, basically, for a straight line. So you can see I'm way off the size 12, but then the 12, when I get down here to where I lengthen and shortened, the 12 jumps way over here. So that's why that looks like that. So you could add width to the side, but I honestly just find that... let's see, what do I want to do? I kind of want to add the width where it was added in the bodice, which would mean I think I'm just going to mark, let's see here. If I measure from center front on the waist, I added that at about 4 inches. So if I go over 4 inches from center front, and I'm going to mark, I'm just going to basically cut and spread the skirt. So I'm going to add 4 inches, 4 inches. So I'm marking over 4 all the way down center front, which is on the fold. And I think this should work, because we could add it to the side, or a little bit to the side, a little bit to the front, but I think 1.25 inches is going to be kind of a lot to do that way, and I don't want to add any to the back because I didn't have to add any to the back on the bodice, so there shouldn't, that's where I carry my weight anyway, is all in the front. And I'm going to use this lengthen and shorten line that was right here at this pink line as my reference. So I'm just going to cut Sorry, I know I'm going out of frame on some of this, but it's just too big. Okay. So now I'm just going to tape this strip of piece of paper together. And just like with most things, I'm going to first tape one side of the skirt to this strip of paper. And then, so there's the center front, and then I'm just going to add a line that is 1.25 inches. Because that's what I'm inserting. And then here's my reference line, which was this lengthen and shorten line, which is parallel to the grain line. Makes it a nice reference point. And then I'm going to add the skirt back. Line that up. You're going to notice a jog at the top, but that's okay. We're going to redo that here in just a second. Now I'm going to tape this second side down. The bottom isn't much of a jog, so the bottom we can true up pretty easily. So I'm just going to cut actually this paper off because the bottom trued up pretty quickly. But then we see up here, we've got a little bit more of a jog. So if I take my French curve here, you can see that there's a little bit of a discrepancy. So I'm just kind of looking, there we go. That looks good. So then I will cut just a wee bit off here. And there we go. Now we have added that to the front of the skirt. And obviously it'll give a little bit of swing all the way down, but it's a full skirt, so it doesn't really matter. I also seem to have cut the pattern accidentally down here. I'm just going to tape that back together. Okay, so there we have it. So now what we are going to do is cut this out of fabric. Actually, no. I'm going to show you how to draft the scoop neck off of the V-neck. So I will have the second bodice. Okay, let's talk about the pattern pieces we need before I do that. So you should have your skirt front. You cut one of these on the fold. You've got your bodice back. Two of these get cut because we have a zipper in the back. Obviously, I haven't cut this out yet. You've got your bodice front. You cut one of these on the fold. You've got your skirt back. You cut two of your skirt backs. There is a pocket piece that you need to cut 2 pairs, so 4 pieces of your pocket. Here are the facing pieces. We are not using that because we're going to cut out a lining. So you can set those aside for next time you want to do a facing. This pattern comes with a fabric belt if you would like to make that. There is that piece. There is the sleeve, and I did go ahead and do a full bicep adjustment. I have a video already on how I do that on the channel, so I'm not going to show you that one. But I've just done the full bicep adjustment, so now I can make all the different, so the short sleeve here, full sleeve. I could make a 3/4 length sleeve. So this is all set and ready to go for any of those. And then the skirt has a band on the bottom, which is just a rectangle. This actually gets folded in on itself. It's not that thick. It's half that width, which actually weights down the, I've made this dress before. It weights down the skirt a little bit and gives it really nice kick appeal, if you will. I mean, you would think that maybe having a seam down there would be shortening because it's a horizontal seam, but honestly, because it's a circle skirt, it just gives it a nice little kick. I guess if you did it in a contrasting fabric, it could have a shortening effect, but I did not find it to be that way with the same fabric. Okay, so there's all your pieces. So now we're ready to cut out fabric.